He is 100% worth it.
He takes it to another level. Oh my God, I just fell in love with it.
Thanks so much, Jay.
Blew my mind. And it worked. I wanted to buy my thing.
Jay is, I would say, the Yoda of the sales calls, man.
Just talking to Jay, he was so good at just taking what it is, seeing the opportunity and the value and the real reason we are making it.
Talk to Jay because he got it. He can definitely help you out.
Talk to Jay. You're going to get a lot. You're going to gain a lot.
I would absolutely recommend him for any position that you have.
Jay's definitely the guy.
Give him the chance, give him the opportunity. You won't regret it.
He's good at what he does, so I highly recommend him, and I would book him before he is fully booked out.
What is up? Welcome back to the Sales Ninja Show podcast, where we cut through the noise, ditch outdated sales tactics, and show you how to close deals with confidence, strategy, and integrity. Hi, my name is Jay Lee, founder of Sales Ninja. As a former banker, former introvert, former pastor, and also high-ticket sales ninja, I now help grow and scale businesses without the need for pushy tactics. And that's the heart of the reverse glass selling method, a kingdom-driven approach from the Bible, yes, the Bible, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15, which is built on trust, service, and true connection. My mission is to help 1 million people break the cycle of generational poverty so that you can sell more to give more. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a man who's been called one of the greatest business growth strategists of our time, a multi-million-dollar revenue generator, best-selling author, and Inc. 5000 CEO. This individual has helped countless business owners, CEOs, and founders scale their businesses, creating over $1 billion in client success stories, millions of high-quality leads, and tens of thousands of clients. From being a high school dropout and former drug dealer to a sought-after advisor and strategist, his personal and professional story is nothing short of inspiring. His genius lies in simplifying complex systems, making businesses more profitable, scalable, sustainable, and enjoyable. Today, we'll dive deep into how he helps business owners automate their marketing, create systems that run without them, and scale rapidly, all while avoiding burnout and staying true to their values. So please join me in welcoming Marquel Russell. Welcome to the Sales Ninja Show, Marquel. How are you doing?
I am fantastic, Jay. It's Marquel. It's all good.
My bad. I should have asked you before. Marquel. I don't want to butcher that throughout, so thank you for correcting me and rebuking me in love, brother.
It's all good, man. I'm blessed to be here. I'm honored to be here, man. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I know that you started in high-ticket sales, but a different kind of high-ticket sales. From a high school dropout to multi-million-dollar strategist, you've come a long way from being a high school dropout and former drug dealer. Can you share your story?
Yeah, 100%. So in short, the first part of my life, so up into third grade, my aunt raised me up until third grade, and my aunt smoked crack. Third grade, I ended up meeting my biological mom for the first time. Started living with my mom. The only people who I knew growing up that actually had money, who I aspired to be like, was NBA and NFL players. So I obviously wanted to go NFL or NBA, but I obviously heard, make sure they had something to fall back on. But the people who were more immediate were like drug dealers, like my cousins. So I actually went that particular route. Before that, though, I always wanted to make money. So I was always entrepreneurial before I had a word for it. So I was like knocking on your door, asking, can I take your trash out? When we moved into neighborhoods, I'm knocking on your door, asking, can I cut your grass? And then as I got older, I was the guy at the school who had the weed. So I started, selling drugs and got into that world. This when like beepers were around and this like Nokia cell phones, the minute phones and all that stuff was around. So I jumped all in. And I've always been a person, like when I do something, I want to become the best at it. So I was like studying like drug kingpins, and my biggest aspiration was to be a big drug kingpin. So I was doing that. I ended up getting locked up when I was 19. I dropped out in 10th grade, so I got a ninth grade education. When I was 19, I had my first son, and I was actually locked up when I first met him. So the first time I met my oldest son was in visitation. So I got out, I was like, man, I got to do something different. So when I got out, I was like, I need to do something different because I don't want to be absent in my son's life like my dad was in my life. So I got out, was like, let me do the job thing. Tried the job thing a little bit. Didn't work out. I worked at this place called Petro. It's a truck stop where I'm like changing oil and tires on big 18-wheelers. I'm covering the oil every day. I was like, this just ain't my thing. So I was like, let me go back in the streets. Let me just get myself together just quickly. And then I'm gonna do something different. Didn't really know. So jump back in the streets, and it's an addiction. So I jumped out. However, I started a record label. So when I was in high school, I started a record label as well because I knew people who did beats. I knew people who rap. So I brought them together and we started a record label. So fast forward, I was like, let me go back down this music path. So I had a label. I bought a studio. Well, I actually got it was a hair salon. We stripped it all out, turned it into a studio. And we started being in the club every night because that's how we, promote our music. So while being in the club one night, I was actually on the way. I actually went to a buddy of mine's mixtape release party. I wasn't even going to go. However, I had gave him my word. So I was like, I'm at least going to go and show my face. And so I went in there, and God has this interesting way of just meeting you where you are. So I'm in the club. A gentleman sees me. He knows who I am. I know his face. Well, he actually thought I was somebody else, but he knew I looked familiar. I knew his face. So we started having a conversation. And he was like, hey, how many people you know got a cell phone? And I was like, everybody I know have a cell phone. And he was like, well, what if every time they paid their bill, you got paid? And I was like, well, that'll be cool. And he was like, one of my mentors are going to be in town. And they're looking for some leaders to expand in the area. They're making millions of dollars. They're doing X, Y, Z. So I'm like, all right, cool. Get to meet a legitimate millionaire. All right, bet. So I went to this meeting. They started talking about this ground floor opportunity, how big video phone technology was going to be. Imagine being in a room when Facebook first got started or Google first got started. And it was like, this is that opportunity. So this was a network marketing opportunity. I had one familiar with network marketing. So I jumped in. So it was $500 to get started. I was like, hey, do y'all got cash? Do y'all take cash? And he was like, well, no, you got to have a card. And I'm like, at this time, I don't got bank accounts and none of that. So I'm like, I run a cash business. You know what I'm saying? So a couple of days later, they showed me how to get a green dot card. I put my $500 on the green dot card. I paid for my brother to get in. I paid half of his to get in. He put in the other half. So I had my first person, and I was off to the race. So I'm showing everybody what I'm going. I'm so excited. Everybody's telling me it's a pyramid scheme. It's not going to work. And I'm like, oh, wow, people heard about this before, and it's a scheme? I'm like, I don't know. So I showed it to my mom, and my mom's always been a hustler. And she was like, if you market yourself, it can work. So that was my mustard seed of faith. So fast forward, I was actually, after I went through a lot of the rejection, I was like, well, maybe this is what they say it is. So I almost like threw in the towel. And the guys who signed me up invited me to a conference, like one of the network marketing conferences that they was having here in Atlanta. So I went, I saw thousands of people there making money. Well, say they're making money, they're positive, they want to help people, all this different type of stuff. And I'm like, well, they could have tricked me, but there's no way they could have tricked all of these people. So I came out of that event. I signed some people up. One of the people I signed up sent me a video series a couple weeks after they signed up. And it talked about, here's how you build a network marketing business without doing home parties and home meetings.
Oh,
so
nice.
4-part video series. I read the sales letter probably about 10 times. I didn't know it was a sales letter. I'm thinking it's a website because I don't know anything about online marketing. So I read this whole thing, watched the 4-part video series, and it made sense to me. It talked about attraction marketing. So I went through this whole thing. I bought this ebook. It was $39. And then it was like, you can share this with other network marketers because it was like, hey, if you're selling network marketing opportunity, your best ideal client are network marketers. So I was like, I took that book, started showing it to other network marketers. A couple of people bought it. So that was my first time making some money online. And I was like, man, if I can make $20 online, I can make millions online. So I was in hook, line, and sinker, right? So I started teaching what I was learning. At first, I was just buying stuff, but I wasn't implementing anything. I was just consuming all the information. I was just taking tons of notes. Because I thought knowledge was power. Reality is applied knowledge is where the power is. So I started finally, after a period of time, I actually shifted from doing in the streets, started doing this legit stuff. But so everything that I was doing on the other illegitimate side had dried up. So I had spent all my money on buying these courses and going to events. I started teaching what I was learning. and just little YouTube videos. And people started reaching out, asking me to teach them. So I started creating some little courses on blogging and stuff like that. Sold a few of them. However, I saw a big opportunity in coaching because people wanted me to coach them. I didn't realize coaching was a thing, but I'm like, this is a whole industry. So I started a coaching company, coaching individuals. We was able to, at that time, the holy grail was $10,000 a month. So we used the coaching business, got to 10,000 a month. We got into 6 figures. People want to know how we were doing that. Started teaching how we did that. We started a company called Client Attraction University. Fast forward, Client Attraction University became an Inc. 5000 company. What was crazy about that, when I was in network marketing, we promoted our company as an Inc. 5000 company. So the fact that we grew a company that got on the Inc. 5000 list was mind-blowing. So we grew that. And then present date, one of the things we noticed as we scaled that company is we thought that just getting more clients and making more sales was scaling. It wasn't. Scale is actually duplicating and multiplying. So you can get a lot more sales, you can get a lot more clients, but that doesn't mean you're scaling. You're just making potentially more top line revenue, but your business can actually break if you don't have the necessary infrastructure and the systems and so forth. So we started our current company, Strategic Scale Institute. It was basically a maturation. Some people say it was a pivot, but it was more of a maturation of us figuring out the client attraction game over the 15 years. And then us stepping more into like, here's what we found about scaling companies. And there's these 8 pillars that you really need if you want to build a company that's more profitable, more scalable. We call it the predictable scale flywheel. If you want to have a company that's more profitable, more scalable, more enjoyable, and potentially sellable, you got to have these 8 pillars and of course, marketing and sales is one of it, but it's 2 of those pillars, but it's important to have these other pillars in place as well. So that's kind of our quick journey over and kind of where we started and, basically where we are now.
Amazing. The new company is called Strategic. What was it?
Strategic Scale Institute.
So is that like an academy or is it like a coaching program?
So no, I wouldn't call it a coaching program. It's more, we call it a strategic advisory firm, right? So it has some coaching elements to it, but it's more high level, hands-on implementation. And part of it is we work with clients, and then also for the right opportunities, we also do partnerships and equity type structures with the right businesses and so forth as well.
I love that. So who are the kind of people that would be eligible to be a Strategic Scale Institute partner or client of yours?
So typically we work with service-based business owners. So service-based, this could be electricians, therapists, it could be coaches, consultants, agencies, sales agencies. So any kind of service-based firm where they can actually charge how they want to charge. And typically they're amazing at what they do. A lot of times they either, number one, enough people don't know who they are, or number two, they're way too involved in the business, so the business can't actually run without them. So we help them systemize the marketing aspect so they get more people to find them, so they can get more clients predictably, and then also setting the systems up so the business can actually run like a machine as well without them.
Now, do they need like a marketing budget for paid ads, or is this organic, or is it combined, or?
It's a combined, so it's more of a hybrid. So ads work great when you got the necessary things in place in terms of messaging and whatever your conversion system and so forth is, but it's a mixture of like, I think ads work best when you're creating content as well, organically. And I think content works best when you're running ads as well. So they basically feed each other.
Beautiful. That's the flywheel, like 8 pillars, the predictable flywheel. So starting from humble beginnings, what key decisions did you make early on that helped you scale to the level of success you've achieved now? Because going from, drug dealing to become a high school dropout to, having a child at 19 and going to prison, seeing your kid while visiting, that's a pretty hard place to come out of.
So I think one of the key decisions is, so I was interviewing one of my clients one day. Her name is Crystal Brown, and she said something powerful that spoke to my journey. She was like, my yes has been more powerful than my gift. So I think for me, my yes has just always been more powerful than my gift. Even if we just go back to the very beginning, where it was like when I was in the club that night, well, even before that, when I was doing artist management, and I had a group that I was managing, and through our label, we used to be in the club all the time. And one of my buddies told me his cousin was opening up a club, and he needed promoters because in the club scene, it's driven by club promoters. Now, mind you, I wasn't a club promoter, didn't know anything about club promotion. However, I was presented with the opportunity and I said yes. But invited me to his mixtape release party. I said yes. I went to true to my word, because I want to be a man of my word. I went to the mixtape release party. I met this gentleman who told me about this opportunity with network marketing. Didn't know what it was, but I said yes. I went, saw the opportunity. Some people saw it and didn't get in. I saw it and was like, this make it work. I said yes, right? So I think every part of my journey, my yes has just been more powerful than my gift, right? And I think through my yes, I actually discovered my gift in teaching, but I only discovered it by saying yes throughout these different phases of my life when I had no certainty that things were going to work out. I just knew that I would be willing to do the work. Does that make sense?
100%. So just to let everyone else know from the podcast, Marquel was saying his yes is more powerful than his gift. Now, I've heard the opposite to be true as well, where people say, the more you can say no, then you know what to say yes to. So my question is, there are people who have the opposite kind of like life motto of saying no as much as they can. How do you know what to say yes to? Because if you say yes to all the opportunities or everything, then you become little to everyone and nothing to yourself.
That's a really good question. So I think it depends on the phases, right? So I think for my personal journey. So for me early on, it was more about my yes, because I was trying to figure out, because I didn't really have a lot of clarity on like where I was going life wise. So I was saying yes, essentially getting in the game so I can get my jersey dirty, basically. Then as I established myself, like what the fascinating thing that happens is like when you seize opportunities, like opportunities multiply. So as the opportunities multiply, now once you're more clearer on where you're going, life-wise, business-wise, vision-wise, now you can actually begin to run opportunities through a filter. And like, how does this opportunity align with this? And if it doesn't align, is it noise or is it signal that's going to actually move? It's like Steve Jobs looked at it like, all right, he ran everything through like, is this noise or is this a signal moving me to my thing? So it's like, now I'm at a place where I get a lot of different opportunities, whether that's events, whether that's podcasts, whether that's this, whether that's whatever it is. So now I get to say, okay, how is this in align with the vision, if at all? In most cases, it's a no. But it's like getting to that point where you're clear on where you're going, and now you can actually run things through a filter. Does that make sense?
So 100%. So if I'm hearing you properly, like in the early stages where you're looking for the opportunities, you're looking to learn and grow, there's a lot more yeses to get in the game, to get your jersey dirty, to establish yourself. Opportunities multiply. You're more clear with the vision and business direction. And then once you get to that place where it's aligned, and you said that there's difference between noise and a signal in the right direction, once you're aligned to that vision, you know what to say no to. Does that sound about right?
100. You'll begin to once you have some clear criteria that you stick to. Now you can actually decide, okay, is this criteria is this based on my criteria? But I think you gotta go through some certain things to like develop that criteria. It's kind of like dating, right? So it's kind of like if you're single and your ultimate goal, let's say, is to get married. Let's say what it is. When you're out just on the dating scene, yeah, you got some criteria. At least you think you got some criteria a little bit. Then you start maybe doing a little dating, and then let's say you've never dated before, and now you just heard about dating, and you've heard about these criteria that other people have, and then you start going out on some dates, you start seeing some things, and now your criteria starts to be refined a little bit. It may be you open up the filters a little bit, or you filter down a little bit more, and now you're like, okay, here's what I ultimately want, to the point where I can sit down and like write out what my ideal woman is or what my ideal man is or whatever, based on some criteria of actually going through some things.
Well said. So when we're talking about challenges and scaling strategies, and I love that dating analogy, relationships, and basically defining your criteria, how do you guide businesses to create automated marketing systems that run independently of the owner? Because you said without burnout, and you have these automated systems that can help you run this. What are the key challenges that they face when they're trying to set this up, and how do you help guide them in creating these automated marketing systems?
So great question. So I think the first challenge that I run up against is the founder / entrepreneur oftentimes has this addiction to being needed. So when I say the addiction to being needed, they're like, well, if I teach somebody this, what if they take all my IP? Or what if they leave and go start their own thing? Or
Yeah.
if it's gonna take this amount of time to train them, I might as well just do it on my own. If I focus on this, it's gonna take away from everything. All these different things, but a lot of these things are just a symptom of their addiction to being needed. Because like when we start a business, it's like this is our baby, and it's like sometimes you're like you don't want nobody else to hold your baby unless you trust them, because you're like, if this thing crashes and burns based on me trusting them, that's on me. So a lot of that comes from like internal childhood trauma or life trauma that we've experienced throughout life. So sometimes it's not, well, many times, I would probably say 90+% of times, it's not just a simple tactical, here's the system, here's what to do. It's more of a, here's who you have to be in order to grow a company that can actually run without you, right? So before we even get to the systems, because a lot of times people know what to do, but they aren't doing it because of all these things that are hindering them that they aren't even aware of. So the first thing we got to do is like dig into that and figure out what blockages they have as it relates to team. So sometimes I'll talk to business owners and they'll be like, well, I got a VA or I got an operations person or I got this. And I'm like, but they're like, well, they're just not performing. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. Well, tell me about your training process. And then they'll be like, training process? Like, what do you mean training process? They're like, I'm like, what is your, like, do you have a curriculum they go through? Do you have like, what does that look like? And they're like, I had a Zoom call with them when they first came on board. They told me they already knew this stuff. But they just never did it. And I was like, okay. Like, even if you worked at Wendy's before and you go work at a Chick-fil-A, yeah, you have experience flipping burgers. But now when you come into the Chick-fil-A system, Chick-fil-A has a different system. Yes, some of that experience may be helpful here, but you still have a defined system if you have a defined system. So once we figure out like what's the inner game stuff that's going to block them from actually doing the necessary things, then we get into a more practical, okay, what is your zone of genius? Like if you could spend 80% of your time doing this specific thing in the business that moves the needle, what is that? Because now we want to build the team around you being able to shine in that particular area. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I know Dan Martell talks about buying back your time. Are you a big advocate of doing the things that you do best and outsourcing the rest and automating it or outsourcing it?
Kinda. So what we do, we have a framework. It's called EAT. So when we work with a business, we're like, okay, what are we going to eat? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, all right, well, here's how it works. So the first thing we want to do is figure out is what should we be eliminating? Because a lot of times we're just doing stuff just because that's always how we've done it. And then a lot of times we got people on our team who are just doing stuff because that's what they were hired for. That's what their original SOP said. But based on where we are now, a lot of stuff we're doing that we started doing 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and it's just not relevant no more. So what can be eliminated, right? So something super basic. So let's say on our Zoom calls, like like training calls and so forth and so on, we used to have the Zoom call, and then some out of operations used to have to go into Zoom and download the recording from Zoom, and then upload that video to Vimeo, right? Because that's what was using for video hosting. So then was like, okay, that can actually be eliminated, and also goes into automate, because now we set up a Zap or set up a trigger. My operation director did it, where she was like, all right, anytime a Zoom recording is done, it's automatically shot into Vimeo. So we eliminated a whole step. So we eliminated a step, and then we automated this process. So the first thing is like, what are all the things we're doing? We just audit all the roles. What are all the things that are being done in the company with your personal role? Let's look at you first as the founder. What's all the things that you're doing right now that should just be eliminated completely, not delegated? Because I think if we automatically delegate, all we're doing is just adding more overhead, and that overhead is just cutting into your profit. So we don't want to hire people or delegate stuff that should just be eliminated. Then secondly, what do we automate? right? So now it goes back to kind of that example I gave. What are some of the things that are happening that can be automated? Not necessarily we need to hire somebody for this, or I need to give this to somebody else. Can it be automated like completely? And then the T is transfer. So now we're like, all right, based on the things that are still left, what do we transfer? Is there somebody on the team that we can transfer this to because now they freed up more bandwidth because we've eliminated and we've automated some stuff? Or do we now consider hiring somebody that we can actually transfer this to?
I love that. That's a great acronym. It makes perfect sense to me. Regarding leadership and team building, which is a perfect segue because you've helped thousands of people and created, $1 billion in client revenue. What are some of your best practices, Marquel, for fostering engagement, connecting with whether it's a Facebook group or other communities?
So you mean are you talking about from a client standpoint or from a team standpoint?
From a client standpoint, how are you in terms of build, because you've made such a huge impact with so many people, how are you connecting with them? How are you building community?
So one of the things that one of the core things that we've done over the past 15 years or so is we do in-person events with clients as much as possible. Because I think Zoom is fantastic. It's a lot of stuff that can be done on Zoom. It's a lot that can be done in Facebook groups and other communities. But some of those platforms just change, right? Some of the functionality change, some of the algorithm change, all these different things. But I think one thing that's like undefeated is in-person events. So one thing that we've done since inception essentially is we did quarterly. First off, we started doing quarterly boot camps. Individuals will come down to Atlanta. We started the Holiday Inn, small U-shaped room where we can actually be hands-on with clients. And we did those every quarter. And then as they grew, we got to a point where we started doing them twice a year. So we did them twice a year. So we do March and September. So recently, 2 years ago, we added something called fly-ins where clients can actually come in on one day. And we do these once a quarter. So they either fly in that morning, we go from 10 to 5, they leave and go back home, or they can, fly in the night before, they'll fly back the day after. It depends on how they're scheduled. So we do that quarterly. And then we also still do our 2-day boot camps, March and September. So I think one of the biggest things we've done to foster community is in-person, high touch, hands-on with clients, because the in-person stuff is just hands down is nothing that can replace that.
Amazing. But for people who don't have that audience and don't have $1 billion in client revenue, how did you grow the community and engage with them before it became in person, before you had a big following or audience?
So yeah, I mean, the first event is interesting. I could show you some pictures. The first one we did, it was 10 of us. That was including me and my business partner.
Nice.
It's we had a little U-shaped room. It was probably 3 people on this side, 3 on that side, 2 on this side. It's very small room. Him and I set it up. So we started this when it was very small, very intimate. Now from an online standpoint, what I would do is whatever platform you want to use, whether that's Facebook or school, it's a lot of different tools out there. I think the biggest thing is another thing that I did is as we start generating leads from very day one. I wouldn't say day one. If I knew what I knew, I would have did it from day one. But as I became more aware, I actually started calling my leads. Mm-hmm. And I picked up the phone. We was generating leads. I would pick up my phone and call them and be like, "Hey Jay, what's up, man? I saw that you downloaded, the how to get client, how to recruit for your network marketing business on Facebook, 4-part video series. I wanted to reach out to you and catch you." And they're like, "This is Marquel." And they're like, "This is who?" And I'm like, "This is Marquel." They're like Marquel, who I saw. Now mind you, I don't have a big brand or anything, but it's they saw that the same person who gave them this free thing that they've been watching on YouTube literally picked up the phone and called them. And I literally have clients and people I still engage with to this day that remember me from 10 plus years ago.
Wow, that long.
The phone calling them. Yeah, 100%. Because a lot of times people don't do that. Right. So it's doing those things that don't necessarily scale at some point. Actually DM. So what else you can do right now? Actually reply to your comments. The amount of people that post content and people leave comments on it or they engage with it that don't reply to their stuff is crazy. Now I know at some level of scale, you're not able to do it. But of course if you do it personally at first, you can design a system so that other people can actually do it. But those people who like your post, reach out to them and start a conversation. Like, that's building community. If somebody comments on your post, reach out to them, not necessarily to sell them something, but actually just to connect with them as a regular human. Those people that are on your email list, they gave you their email and their phone number, pick up the phone and call them. They've raised their hand and said they're interested. That's all literally, building community, because the platforms and the technologies and the tools to create community, those will change. But like the need, the desire to connect with other humans, it's never going to change. And it's actually increasing even more now with AI and all these different elements that are actually disconnecting us even more. So now individuals are actually craving depth and connection even more now. So if you actually show yourself human, people are going to actually lean more into you, while everybody else is leaning more into automating and AI and everything.
Interesting. And that's a perfect segue for your EAT acronym, which is eliminate, automate, transfer. And with AI technology here at the forefront, and people using, and I see all these ads with like voice AI that can set appointments and close your sales for you. Like, what is your thought on that? Is that the eliminate, automate, or is that really like a transfer move where like you get that human touch that people need?
So I think so I've seen a lot of that stuff as well, right? And it's always fascinating to see. So I know for a lot of times individuals don't think about the end consumer as much. It's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, which is fine. I'm totally cool with.
That's okay.
So I know for me, if I want to do business with somebody and they have an AI tool, I'll give you a specific example. So I did an event, one of our client events last year, and everybody was asking about AI. It's such a hot topic. And I was like, we're going to dig into the AI, but I was like, let me ask y'all a question. I was like, when you call your bank or you call your phone service or you call whatever thing to get some support, and the AI rep answers, and it says, hi, I'm the AI. I can help you get to where you want to go. I was like, what's the first thing that y'all do? Everybody in the room yelled out, representative. They want to talk to a real person. So I'm like, if you have a desire to talk to a real person, what on earth makes you think that other people don't want to talk to a real person, right? So the AI technology, as it relates to sales, I think it's a great initiator. However, it's a great supplement and initiator. However, as fast as possible, we want to get a human inside of there. So for example, let's say you use an AI tool or auto response, whatever you use to broadcast to a text list or email list or whatever. Because of course you don't got to send out emails and text manually. You can use like an AI tool or a software or something. So we initiate with that, right? Then we go from initiating to engaging, right? So now we initiate. The people who reach back out, they've raised their hand. Now let's get a human inside of there, because a lot of times, most of the time, the AI doesn't really have all the nuance that comes with human connection. So now, okay, these people, so we use this tool, they replied back. Now let's get Jay or Marquel to like jump in here and start a communication, or somebody else to start a communication and talking with this individual, like a real human being. And now more than ever, that's going to differentiate you, because these people, 9 times out of 10, they think that it's AI. So the faster you can let them know that, hey, I'm actually a real person, this ain't AI, they're going to be like, okay, wow, this company has now set themselves apart from everybody else because everybody else is using AI.
Interesting. There's two sides. I mean, I hear the speed to lead, and with AI, going so fast, and I really appreciate and respect, your approach, which is that humanize it as quickly as possible and show them that you're a real person, and you'd rather want to speak to a human being versus like a robot, right?
Yeah. 100%. Now, I was just gonna say, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're gonna say one more thing.
No. I was just gonna say 100%. I think we use both, right? I don't think, because in most cases, I don't think in a lot of cases AI is going to replace some things. However, I think there's a lot of cases where we're thinking AI is going to replace some things that's just irreplaceable, right? And people watch a few years from now, and probably in the very short term, companies that actually have real humans are actually going to be more valued than the ones that don't. So there's going to be restaurants where you can go to, and it's going to be all AI robot driven. And there's going to be other restaurants that are actually going to promote, we have real humans here. And when you go to the restaurants that have real humans there, it's actually going to be more expensive to eat at those restaurants with real humans. And people are going to have to pay for it.
Very, very interesting. I see that happening as well. If you can actually get an authentic experience, right?
You get an authentic human experience. And people are going to be like, I'm going there, and they're going to be willing to pay more to have a real, authentic human experience. 100%.
That's so interesting. I was just listening to you on your podcast before we came on the show, and one of your podcasts, which is like a nice small bites of like 22 minutes or so, how I make $1 million before 9 a.m. Your morning success routine. I think as a multi-million-dollar entrepreneur, some of those hacks or biohacks or whatever you call them, and I share a lot of them with you. I'd love for you to share some of those things. Your schedule seemed very interesting because I think I didn't catch all of it, but you get up at 3:45 and somehow you go back to bed by 9. Can you explain how that works?
So great question. I actually, you know what? I'm actually glad you brought this up because I'm actually going to reshoot that because I have it's modified now. So yes, because what else says that's like a year or so ago. So I actually used to get up at 3:45. Yeah. Because I used to get up at 3:45 because I used to kind of operate just from a different place. So I'd be like, okay, I need to get up at 3:45, get to work, blah blah, have a whole checklist, hit the boom 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 boom. Now I actually get up depending on if the kids are in school or not. So sometimes now I'll get up between 6 or 7, just depending, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm optimizing for something different in this phase of my life. A lot of the things that I do when I get up are still very similar, right? So, for example, I get up, I pray, I read my devotional, and how this whole $1 million by 9 a.m. came up with is I'm giving myself. It was basically 10 things, and I'm giving myself $100,000 for each one, like mentally $100,000.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So number one is I'm reading my devotional. Well, first of all, my morning routine starts the night before. So it's like I have an evening routine. So it's like part of my evening routine when I nail it is I'm typically doing a hot shower with lavender in it because that's helping me relax my body. I'm doing magnesium. I'm taking magnesium because again, this is all helping me relax my body. Typically doing some reading. And having the room, as cold as possible. My wife doesn't really like the cold, so we kind of have to compromise there a little bit. So those are some of the things that we're doing in the evening to help me begin to wind down because I'm tracking my sleep score. Then when I get up in the morning, getting up at a decent time, doing my prayer as soon as I wake up in the morning, doing my devotional time. So I really have my pocket of morning solitude. Before I get kids up, before my wife gets up, before I let the world in, I got my morning solitude time, which is scripture, some meditation. My brain, I do this thing called brain training, which is an app called Elevate, where I'm doing some brain training. My reading, meditate, those things that I'm getting in that hour before waking anybody up, journaling to really settle myself before, again, letting anybody else in. Because we have this concept.
What time is that from? 6 to 7?
This is typically from 6 to about 7. So right now, so yes, typically about 6 to 7 now. Mm-hmm. Or 7, 8. So like when kids aren't in school, I might sleep a little later, just depending. Yeah. So if I get up at 7, if I stayed up later that night watching movies with my wife or something, I may get up between 6 and 7, just kind of depending between 6 and 7. And then typically it's like an hour. So whether that's 6 to 7, or if it's 7 to 8, or if I got a little more buffer time, it might go from 6 to 8 if I got a little more room, depending on what.
You're allowed to watch movies with your wife as an entrepreneur? If so, and that's just a joke, what time are you going to sleep?
That's a real thing, man, because it's fascinating to me because there was a season of my life when I was like, man, you don't watch TV, you can't watch sports games, you got to be grinding. Yeah. 24/7. Right, so I came from that school of thought. So now, depending on the night, because my wife is a nurse now. So,
nice.
So I used to also try to be to bed at like 9, 10 o'clock, but sometimes she works later and I won't go to sleep until she gets home. So sometimes that may be, after 10, and then we want to have some time together. So I also used to think that I had to go somewhere for date night. But with my wife, we can actually sit at home and watch some of our favorite shows or movies with just us, and that could be our date night, right? So awesome. I optimize for time with my wife versus how early I can go to sleep. Does that make sense? So if I need to
Yes.
make up for the sleep on the back end in the morning, I'll opt to stay up later. Now there was a season where I was like, hey, I need to go to bed. But now I'm optimizing for present time with the family, with my wife, with my kids. And then I'm making decisions on the business side around that. So I'm building my business around my life versus the other way around. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you were also saying, and when you were waking up earlier, 3:45, that I think you said you crawled back into bed from 9 to 9:30. I don't know if that was a nap or.
No. So basically, I said I would typically shoot to be in bed at night about 9 to 9.
Oh, night. Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Some
I
cases,
was like,
but that can be challenging though. With all the variables in my life, with my kids, my wife, it can sometimes be challenging to be in bed at 9 or 9:30.
yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
And you use a Ready Score. Do you ever do cold plunges at all, or you don't believe in it?
I tried cold plunges before, but I was like, I grew up, man. I grew up, and sometimes we had to take cold showers, like we had to take cold baths, and it's like I just don't want to relive that.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you.
Yeah, I
Every
don't
time
want
I
to
do
relive.
it, I'm suffering. I'm like, why am I doing this? Because
Why
people
am
said
I
it's
doing
good for
it?
me.
Yeah, I tried it before, and I was just like, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, I'm just not gonna do it just because somebody online on the internet told me I should be doing it. I just unsubscribed from it.
That's great. So faith is a big part of your personal values. How does faith, especially coming from being a high school dropout, dealing drugs, getting into prison, being a new dad at 19? I'm not sure how many kids you have, or if those kids are
I have
still
5.
with you.
Yeah, I have 5 kids. I have 3 in the house and 2. My oldest are 23 and 21, and I have 3 in the house.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how does faith play a role in your business and in your family?
I mean, it's everything, right? Everything. My whole life has been a faith walk, like literally. Yeah, my whole life has literally been a faith walk. I've been in a lot of situations in my life where the only explanation that I have for getting out of it is God, right?
Wow.
Yeah, what I do now in my life now, the only way I can explain it is the favor of God, like hands down. It's like I have clients that are attorney and like MBAs and doctors and super accomplished individuals, right? And I got a ninth grade education. I got a GED, but it's like it. The only explanation I have for my life and where I am, I didn't grow up with a dad. I have a family. Like I didn't grow up around people who had both parents. I had 2 friends I grew up with who have both parents. But my life and what I've been able to accomplish and achieve, it makes no sense. And what I know is that when it doesn't make sense, that's when God is in it. So
Amazing.
So it's everything.
I love that. So, in terms of building a legacy, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave with your work or your family as a business strategist and coach?
So my legacy is, so it's interesting. Me and my business started talking about this the other day. It's like I used to always think legacy is like what you leave when you're going. I believe that legacy is like what you're living every day, right? Because what you're living every day is what you're going to leave, right? So my legacy that I want to live every day is being a child of God that's on purpose, that's focused on expanding the kingdom of God. And I'm expanding the kingdom of God through ministry, when business is ministry, but also in the church world, I would say, also in the business world, the family world, and these different domains that we're called to dominate, right? So me doing that, and then also me being not just saying I'm this person, but operating as a child of God and being a man of my word, a man of integrity. For my kids to be able to go somewhere and they be like, "Oh, you're Marquel's son? Like, oh, y'all good. Your money's no good here." Just because of like who your dad is. So me being, because like on the internet these days, man, you can be anything you want to be, right? But everybody ain't who they supposed to be. It's like on the internet, it's this whole thing, right? But it's like when you meet somebody in real life and it's like, this ain't really aligning up. So it's easy to be a public success,
Yeah,
a private failure. So you got all the professional accolades, but it's like on the personal life side, on the home side where it really matters, you're losing. That's not what I want. So I want to be able to show my sons and the people who I get to serve, that you actually can have both. You don't got to sacrifice family life with your kids, with your spouse, for professional success. You can actually have it all.
amazing. So we have a gift, thanks to you, called the Predictable Scale Playbook, scalethesmartway.com. /free book. So that's available for you guys. I have a lightning round, which is going to be a 60-second getting to know Marquel because he's got to run. And whatever comes to the top of your dome, just share what comes. Morning or night person?
I'm both. Both.
Tea or coffee?
Tea for sure.
Favorite business tool?
Google Calendar.
Favorite AI tool that's not ChatGPT?
Favorite AI tool that's not ChatGPT. Siri.
A hidden talent that many people may not know about you or your audience or maybe your clients that is completely outside of your work or business.
So here's something. So I was working with my content team, and it was like, "What's something weird about you?" So when I heard you say that, that's what came to my mind. So something that's weird, something that's interesting about me and like how I do numbers is if I see words, my brain automatically begins to calculate them and divide them. So I give you an example. So right now I'm looking at J sales ninja, that's 10 letters. J is 13. You can't divide that evenly. So my brain, when I'm riding and I see billboards and I'm seeing numbers, so sell more, give more. That's 12 letters. It can be divided evenly because 3 times 4 is 12, 4 times 3 is 12, 6 times 12. So it's like my brain automatically does that when it comes to like numbers and letters. So it's pretty weird.
What is that? Are you like a mathematical genius rainmaker or something like that?
I have no idea. It's like when I shared that with my team, they was like, that's you kind of on the spectrum a little bit.
Yeah.
It was like that's what that means. And
like
I was
Rain
watching.
Man.
Yeah, I watched it. That's my business partner say. He's like, bro, that's some Rain Man type stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was watching The Accountant.
Yeah. Yes.
My man, his thing,
Yes.
he kind of processed like that. I was like, that's crazy. So yeah.
That's exactly The Accountant 2. I was just watching that the other day, so that's interesting.
Exactly.
Well, that is a wrap, and I'd love to have a part 2 because we cut this short, and you got to run. And I want to thank you so much, Marquel, for your life, your legacy, your faith, and all these tips. We definitely need to do a part 2, if not more.
Let's do it.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Sales Ninja Show podcast. If you are a 6 or 7-figure entrepreneur and you want to be on this podcast, comment podcast. And we look forward to having you on the next show. Thanks again, Marquel. And we're here to help you to sell more, to give more. Take care for now.
Let's do it.
Massive.